I'll just kind of
briefly.
kick off
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
what I've seen. I mean, even today, so I have a couple old iPhones that I use as just kind of Bitcoin wallets. I've just been doing that since I got into Bitcoin. This one still has the original one camera there. It's a relic. But I saw a
Classic.
notification pop up on my phone today, basically saying that you need to update this because there's a huge vulnerability. It was from Apple, an update from Apple saying there's a huge vulnerability in software that hasn't been updated. So that suggests to me that there's been some things happening behind the scenes of some older softwares being cracked already, or they're worried about that happening. And so there's a lot of weird things that happened in the last week or so with the Claude code and the Claude basically coming out and saying we found this 0 day issue that's going to be a big problem to the world, but we're not going to release it. We're going to let people fix their software first, which I mean, I think Forrest argued against it in the sense of they're just doing it as kind of like a bluff to say we need more money to keep things safer. And I kind of subscribe to that theory as well. But I think the big thing with that is like they're basically deciding then who gets to win this thing, which companies get to survive this 0 day attack. Claude's going out and saying, well, we're going to team up with Apple, we're going to team up with Microsoft, we're going to team up with Nvidia, whoever it is. We're going to fix their patches, but everybody else, once that's done, sorry, you're just kind of you're going to be hooped. So I think for the average person watching this, the best thing that you can do is just make sure you have a very limited exposure to your private keys being online, stored online, whether that's through a hot wallet, a lightning wallet. Obviously, you're not going to be storing your information anywhere digitally, but I just kind of go into the assumption now that everything's up for grabs. Like I just assume that everything's going to be taken from me. So the cool thing about Bitcoin is that you do have the ability to take it offline using something like a cold card queue, which I think we all use and love. And I think that that's the easiest thing that people can do, and then just go from there. But that's number one is just getting your keys off the internet ASAP.
Yeah, so the big news was Claude coming out with Mythos, which is its new model, and not releasing it to the public. And I think it's called um, Project Glasswing, and
Yeah.
it's what you mentioned there with the Microsoft, Apple, all of this. I don't think it's specifically to try to like fix the things they have before it goes live, but it's more so like to actually check out these underlying systems that are redundant and used on all sorts of different digital infrastructure. But nonetheless, 100%, there are like favorites being picked, by by that alone, by giving access to it, even for that. I just wanted to bring attention to this, right? Because the problem here that I see is like the boy who cried wolf. So this
Yeah.
is an article on Slate from 2019, and it's about ChatGPT 2.0. This is when ChatGPT first came out, right? This is the LLM at the beginning, and this entire thing is talking about how OpenAI, all the people in OpenAI are saying it's too dangerous. We can't give it access to the internet. All sorts of things that they've since done, and this is, I think it was like a couple billion of parameters, and now we're into like the trillions of parameters, and they're saying the exact same thing. So they said this 7 years ago, right? And they weren't right then, but it's led to now. Is it more serious now? Probably, but is it possibly still just another boy crying wolf? Also, probably, in my opinion. Um, and I think that we're constantly going to have this happen where there is some things that it could do that could be problematic, and there is some necessity to look at the connection vulnerabilities, which is what Mythos can do. It can look at one thing, it can tie it into another and another, and then all three of those could be exploited to create one problem. Whereas, somebody, a high level coder, would just look at each one of those and not necessarily make the connection to create the vulnerability. It could also be argued that like Opus 4.6 in the hands of a highly intelligent coder is already incredibly sophisticated at hacking, right? Because
Yeah.
it's all about the prompts that you're giving it. It's sort of more like Mythos is that much better that a junior dev could take it and create some massive problems with it. So I think it's going to be like this constant case of Y2K where we have to prepare for the change to some sort of um, uh, digital infrastructure before the sort of doomsday event actually happens. It's kind of going to be this constant fixing of old bugs. Yeah, I don't see it as being that big of an issue. Like, I don't know. There's also the argument of like the internet is going to become less and less usable, and that's already 100% the case. Is it going to become completely unusable? Maybe not, because like AI will fight AI. You'll be able to have like a Nostr client that filters out any AI content with its own AI that figures out what's AI. You know, like, I don't know. That's a possible future where then it actually brings authenticity and human interaction back to social media. That would be great. I mean, it's very hard to predict the future, but those are kind of my thoughts around this. And of course, reiterate George's point, none of this is giving absolute confidence that anything you do online is secure. So you have to take self-custody using an offline method, like, again, the cold card queue. Any Bitcoin and Lightning channels, Lightning wallets, custodial wallets, exchanges, that's not real Bitcoin until you take ownership of it into an offline device or using an offline device.
Yeah, I think it's just it's good to keep talking about, because it's like you said, Forrest, it's going to be something that keeps coming up over and over and over. And you know, we mentioned off the rip like where the price is going, and I talked about somebody yesterday. You know, it's like you guys mentioned, it's going to 1 million, it's going to 10 million, it's going to 100 million, and that's in today's dollars. That's today's dollars. That's not like people always like, oh yeah, well, what's that going to buy you though? No. Today's dollars. Today. That's nothing stops the train. It's the government. Unless you're telling me the government's going to stop printing all around the world, all the governments are just magically going to reverse trend, then okay, then that's a different discussion here. But come on, like what are we smoking here at the end of the day? So if Bitcoin stays decentralized and secured, and governments keep printing and stupid stuff keeps happening, guess where we're going, boys and girls? Up and to the right. End of story. There is no debate. There's literally zero debate about this. And people just are so like myopic and tunnel vision on this. Again, another hockey analogy. Like you telegraph the pass and set your guy up to get killed, right? Like a defenseman's passing the puck up the ice, like right up the middle. The forward's looking back like this and he catches a puck and whammo, the defenseman just takes him out. Well, guess what? That's most normies. That's most people, pre-coiners, no coiners. They got their head down going through the middle. Not a good place to be. As Don Sherry would say, get out of the trolley tracks, folks.
Yeah, I was going to say the tracks.
Keep your heads up. Keep your head up.
I think one of the worst things people are doing right now is they're trying to protect their dollars so they have as many as possible. And that's the worst decision you can ever make. If you have more dollars, you're actually losing. You don't have more purchasing power. You just have more dollars. It's like, let's say, for example, you're playing a video game and you get a certain number of points, and then they change the scale of the points where in the beginning, 1 point is worth $1 or something. In the future, it's worth, let's say 10 points are worth $1, then 100 points are worth $1, and 1,000 points are worth $1. That's exactly what's happening here. So in real life, your bank account's going to keep going up, and it'll keep going up forever. You'll feel like, oh, maybe I'm getting wealthier. But by the time you actually realize that the system is designed to make you feel this way, it's going to be too late. A lot of people aren't going to figure this out until they're like 70. That's the worst part. So a lot of people that I speak to, they are in their 40s, 50s. They have maybe 100,000 saved, 200,000 saved. There's the rare person who has like $500,000, $600,000 saved, but most people have like nearly nothing. And you can't retire like that. You can't become financially free like that. If you're just expecting somebody to come save you, nobody's coming to save you. If anything, people are coming to take your things from you.
Yeah.
They want everything from you. Like they're coming to take everything from you, even though they're supposed to protect you. Your purchasing power is being stolen from you no matter what. Like think about it from a real world perspective. What did $100 buy you 20 years ago versus today? $100 is nothing today, right? You go to McDonald's, you're spending $50 for 2 people. And that's just going to keep getting worse. At some point, that'll be $500, and people will still be thinking, "Oh, I have $1 million saved. I should be able to retire." But you won't be able to. Inflation will just keep getting worse and worse. It's bad now, but it'll get worse. And you're going to see, like we were talking about Bitcoin there. People say, "Oh, what's a loaf of bread going to be worth when Bitcoin's $1 million?" Okay, well, right now a loaf of bread is what, $4, maybe. When Bitcoin goes to $1 million, a loaf of bread will go to maybe $5, because the thing is that you can mass produce bread, but you can't mass produce Bitcoin.
You can mass produce anything. That's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Anything. If there's enough demand for something, we can make more of it. No problem.
People find ways.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge narrative of why software stocks have fallen off, right? They declined massively as Opus got really good. Again, Claude is the seems to be a reoccurring character here. Mass abundance of personal bespoke software based on AI being able to write code really well. So these moats that these companies have, it's questionable whether they will have them, if they deserve the valuations, because what they have created is not as scarce as it once was because of technology getting better. And I mean, that's the thing here, right? Is if we, regardless whether we believe this whole thing with Mythos or not, it doesn't really matter. It's clearly getting better. It's clearly getting more capable at creating things, and those things are becoming less scarce. And it's just a very harsh reminder that the only thing absolutely scarce in the digital world is Bitcoin. Everything else can be replicated and created, and there's no ability to create scarcity in the digital world outside of Bitcoin.
So I mean, when you just think about that, Forrest, like, I know, and again, I feel like I've said this the last 2 weeks, which is like, when sometimes all you need to do is just listen to Jeff Booth talk for a while, and it takes the average person a very long time to understand it, because I know that, because it took me a very long time to understand that. But when you say things like that out loud, and you're kind of at the point of understanding where this whole thing's going, you say, okay, if everything else is abundant, if there's enough people who want something, whatever that is, whether that's gold, whether that's real estate, whether that's iPhones, if enough people want that, we can make as much as we need to meet that demand for it, with everything, except for one thing, which is Bitcoin. And because of the difficulty adjustment, because of taking real physical energy from the real world, bringing it onto the internet digitally, that's the only thing that does not fall in line with that. And there's also a fixed supply of it. And you can send it, you can store it yourself without an intermediary. You can send it anywhere in the world. Wouldn't it make sense that we measure all of those other things that we can produce by that one thing that can't be produced? Isn't that like the most logical thing ever?
Somebody in the chat said, not land. So you can't produce more land. What are your thoughts on that? To me, it's like,
that's for Jacques' wheelhouse. Yeah,
we have enough land.
Yeah.
Look
at
Dubai,
or look at
right.
Dump that sand in the ocean, boys and girls. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much land already. Like, how much more land do we need? There's
infinite
so I did the calculation. Actually, I saw a post from somebody.
Going to Mars, guys. There's infinite land.
Or the moon.
Yeah.
Or the moon.
Somebody actually said there's like 1,700 acres of land on Earth per Bitcoin.
Yo.
So how many acres of land do you own today? I don't even think I own one.
Yeah. I mean, it's
yeah, and
I'm okay. I'm fine. I don't need more. How much land do you need?
I get a couple.
A couple. I mean, that's the thing here too. Is it's sort of like comparing apples and oranges, because land is not fungible. Bitcoin is fungible. So yeah, I mean, all land is different. So yeah, there'll be valuable pieces of land. That's always been the case. There'll be less valuable pieces of land. There is a degree of scarcity, but it's not absolute. It's not quantifiable. It's a difficult thing to even compare in any way. And if you're thinking of it, like, to think of land in the same way as Bitcoin, you kind of have to think of it as like this asset that's going to appreciate. And that just really doesn't make sense when you start to think about it. Like, I'm going to buy this chunk of land that some government that may or may not fall apart will protect from other people taking it in some way, that they're giving me the rights to this land,
and you're trusting them not to take it.
Exactly. You're trusting them not to take it. If it's very valuable land, I mean, you have to be very powerful as well to protect that in some way. You have to have some kind of influence, probably, or at least that's a way to secure it, maybe more. It just doesn't seem like it's something we obviously relate, because so many people have made a lot of their wealth, a lot of their net worth tied up in their land and their home and everything. But it's just so fundamentally different of an asset that it's not really worth comparing. I mean, it's fun to do, but when you really boil it down, it's like, oh yeah, these two things are just completely different.
That's what I was going to say is like, I really think that land and Bitcoin are the closest two things that you compare. You know, you go back to the township, the sections, the half section, quarter sections, acres, lots, same things. Same thing's going to happen with Bitcoin. As more and more people show up, we're going to change the way we measure it so it's more relevant to where we are. But we're talking about two different things here. Even if we say that land is somewhat comparable to what Bitcoin is, just because it's scarce, that's one aspect of it. You can't send land across the world. You can't store land in your head. You can't take land on an airplane and go wherever you want to go. These are two different things. And as Forrest said, land over here is different than land over here. One sat here is one sat over here. That's what makes a good unit of measurement. So we're not comparing it. Land in the future, it will probably be the most valuable thing, but it will be measured in Satoshis. That's kind of my whole argument here. Is it's a unit of measurement. It's not an asset. I mean, it is and it isn't, but it's many things. Yeah. But you really just have to understand the dynamic of it.
Yeah, that's
yesterday.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yesterday I had to send Jor some sats. What if I had to pay him in land? How do I pay him?
Here's exactly.
Yeah. What am I gonna do? Give you like a square
inch? How do you
inch?
pay him in gold?
Yeah, how do I pay him in gold? Yeah, how do I pay him in
stock? Tokenize it. You tokenize it so you can transfer it in this.
You create like this dollar fiat system to tokenize it like on top of gold, and then you know coin. That'd be great.
Exactly.
Shift coin. We'll call it shift coin. Yeah, exactly.
What could go wrong?
And someone said this in the chat too. Like it's why is it priced in dollars? I mean, that's everyone's reference point. Like if this was 100 years ago, we would price things in the pound sterling or something. Like it's just like that's what everyone's reference point is, and that's what we're all used to. So that's why we do it. And it's the reserve currency at the time. So that's what makes sense. Eventually, like what these three other gentlemen are talking about, we won't. We'll be pricing everything in Satoshis. Like there's people out there who, believe it or not, price their lives in Satoshis. And I would imagine the four people you see on this video call are doing that. They price their life in Satoshis and maybe dollars, right? Because you need some reference point of where things are at. And I'm sure there's many in the chat too. So I think that's where, and I would say that's an amazing exercise that you three guys have talked about this at length for years now, is pricing your life. You have to price your life in Satoshis, or else you have no reference point of where things are going. You don't know what's undervalued, you don't know what's overvalued, you have no idea because the goalpost is always changing. So don't let the what's happening right this second, what you've been told your whole life, because again, how many things we've been told our whole life that were wrong, like we still don't know what happened to JFK, right? So I mean, I could talk to you about 1,000 things that we learned in school, or that we did this and that. We have no idea. There's no reference point because someone just told us out of their head or whatever. So use a real reference point, something that's unchanging, like one of the guys mentioned here, right? I think it was George saying that. So that to me is the big thing, that it has all the properties of money, yes, but it's also what confuses people. It's an investment, it's a protocol, it's money, it's all these things. And eventually, like in 20, 30 years from now, or whenever this happens, it could be 5 years from now, it won't be an investment anymore. It'll just be money. It'll just be the unit of account. So, and then it ceases to kind of be that investment thing where people look at it as an investment, because you can just sit there and it accrues value, but eventually it'll just be money. And how people think of it as dollars, and dollars either will exist or won't exist. They might just be UBI, political, sludge money, cuck bucks that people use to the government tries to grift. Some people are always going to be grifted by the government. Let's just be straight up, right? Like some people are always going to be grifted by the government. They're always going to believe what the government's saying. And those people will use CBDCs, stable coins. They'll use whatever it ends up being. They'll use UBI. They'll use it through there. And then the rest of society that gets it will be using Bitcoin. And going back to the properties and the confidence, the way we all talk is because it's the homework on the system. It's backed by 20 nuclear reactors worth of energy. In its world of AI, that's where bringing this whole conversation full circle. So we started with that. The threats going on everywhere. You see, the legacy system can't withstand the attacks of quantum. They can't withstand the attacks of just simple Claude code. They cannot withstand it. You're seeing it all over the place. And whether it's just people losing their jobs or legacy software falling apart because of the vulnerabilities being exposed by AI, that's wild. I mean, what greater case for Bitcoin out there? And that's where people are really going to start learning some hard lessons going forward, that you need the 28 reactors of energy, nuclear reactors, in order to keep the only thing safe that's important out there.